We're going to cut a piece of J channel, 1/2 inch J for the soffit. It needs to fit right along this edge here on the rake, and go horizontal here and back down to the other box soffit. So I'm going to measure the distances. I measure down to there, right up to where that bend is going to be. That's about 41 inches. Now I need to cut it long. The bottom edge needs to come down and touch lower in the corner. And if I don't cut it long, it'll end up too short. So we're going to take that measurement as 41.5. And then I need to measure right across here. I need to measure where a level line hits this piece of wood. So if my wedges here aren't tight, then you need to just extend it out a little bit. So I'm going to measure from there over to this side, and it's 15.5. Measure down the other side, 41, so I'm going to cut it 41.5. Now I'm going to mark the J channel on the back. So I come 41.5, make a mark, and then I need to go another 15.5, so that would be 57 inches. Okay, I'm just going to double check and make sure I did my math right. So 15.5. And our last mark is 41.5. Okay, so I've already got that marked. So if you just double check, that one's 41.5. That one's 15.5. And that one is 41.5. I'm going to take my snips, cut it. This piece is going to be bent, okay? When I bend it, if we look at the end of the house, everything we do on the end of the house is going to have a slight miter. So in actuality, these two marks are going to be coming down at a slight angle. So instead of 15.5, if you make it about 3/16 of an inch shorter for the slope of roof that we have, the bottom edge will be just right. I'm going to transfer that mark down to the front and make it about 3/32 shorter on both ends. Okay, so this is where it's going to bend on the bottom. It's going to be going at a slight angle right here and here. Cutting a place for my tin snips to fit. Okay, they won't fit in here unless I cut out a chunk. Now I'm going to cut right here. As soon as I cut that, that metal's going to bend, so make sure that it's supported. We don't want it to overbend and break off. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Remove a chunk so that I can fit my snips into the crack, and then make my cut. Okay. Well, I'm going to get over here on the front again, and I'm going to make sure that it bends in the right spot, because it could bend anywhere between this point and the front. So I'm going to just put my thumb there to kind of force it to bend in the right spot. And do the same thing on the other end. Now I want to keep it bent in that position as I take it over to the house. If those bend back and forth a couple of times, they'll just break on that joint. We have our piece up here, and we need to fasten it in place. I usually put a screw here. Make sure that the J is up tight against your backing. That'll hold it in place. You notice it's not tight on the bottom end. We're going to put a screw on the other side. Same location. Hold it in place. Okay, those two screws will hold it. Put one in the middle maybe. And now I need to trim the ends so that they fit. If you look closely over here, you can see that the back is touching. This edge that we're going to see isn't touching yet. That's the one that's important. So we're going to trim the back off so that the front will fit. I'm just going to tip that a little bit, make a cut back to the back, get my other tips so I can fit in there a little bit easier, and just trim that on an angle. See, now that bottom edge is touching like we want it to. It's still too long, but this is the angle that we have to cut it on. So I'm going to cut a little bit more off the back. And I'm going to get down here and look at it to see about where it's going to end. It's going to end about right here. So I need to cut off almost a ½ inch. It's a lot better to do it in small bites so that you don't cut it too short. So now I've got it almost up where it needs to be. You can see it's still not tight against my backing up here, so I need to cut off just a little bit more. So I'm going to go about a little more than a 1/16. Okay, that puts me almost there. Now we actually have to fit a piece of metal behind this, so we don't want it to be super tight. It does need to be square, so you may want to get a square and mark it. I'm going to trim almost a 1/16 more off because I need to go up a little bit higher, and we need to leave a little bit of room for that other piece to fit. So now if you look at it, I'm tight up against my backing, and I'm only about a 32nd of an inch away from this piece of metal, which is where I want it to be. So I'm tight, and you can see down here I've only got about a 32nd of an inch gap for my metal to fit in. Then we can screw it in place. Okay, I've trimmed this in so that it fits up tight, and there's just enough of a gap here for the metal to slide underneath it. Now I'm going to get a screw and screw it in. Don't want to damage the J here, so don't get your screw too close. Now we need to cut a piece of J to fit across this direction to cover the end of our soffit. You'll notice if I were to put it in just like this, you look down on the bottom, there's a big gap. Okay, we don't want to have a big gap there. This is actually going to have to cover the piece of fascia we put here and conceal the edge. So we need to make it fit tight against that plywood. Right now the J-channel is bent square. We need for it to come out on a sharp angle like this so that it will conceal the fascia. There's different ways you can do it. I've done it in the past out on the job site. If you don't have a brake, you can just do it like this. You have to do it gradually, working your way back and forth until you get the amount of angle that you need. Okay, that's probably pretty close. We're going to go just a little bit more. Okay, that looks about right. If you have the luxury of a brake, you can clamp it in the brake and carefully pull it toward you. To get the amount of bend that you need. When I install this piece, it needs to fit inside the other piece. When we bend it, it actually became thinner so that it'll fit, both sides will fit inside the other piece. Also need to make sure that it's tight up against the framing. And against our plywood. Okay, that looks good.